I could never is a saying that is holding us all back. With many people daydreaming of achieving excellence, these 3 words tell the whole story. Putting in the hours isn't gonna matter because I don't have what it takes anyway. This is a very dangerous mindset to have. A poison that before long begins to spread to your confidence. By saying I could never, you've already given up. And I don't blame you, because that used to be me. As a kid, I was dead average at every sport I played, and I started to wonder if I'd ever get good at anything. When I found speedrunning at the age of 14, it was much the same. I was nothing special. But this time, something was different. It was the realization that speedrunning is endless. No matter how much you play, your time can always go lower. And before I knew it, I'd become obsessed with improving. As of making this video, I will officially be 15 years deep in this relatively niche hobby, and I've carved out a respectable body of work within this amazing community. A place where I've felt so welcome, it's given me a reason to never leave. But I gotta keep it a buck. Improving at speedrunning was never taught to me. There were no guides, no tutorials, no older sibling or teacher who was there to show me the ropes. I, like many others at the time, had to learn through trial and error. Today, there's tons of videos that can help you set up LiveSplit, get a capture card, and learn whatever game. But there's very few videos tackling the extremely layered process of how to actually get good at any speedrun. This is going to be that video. So whether you're a seasoned speedrunner, completely new, or just a viewer, this will serve as a guide on how to get better. I have consulted 5 of the best speedrunners I know, who all have years in the game. Alongside myself, we'll bring you through the steps to becoming GOATED at speedrunning.
Before we get started, I want to let you guys know that this video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. I personally first used Surfshark during the COVID years, and it's super handy. I lived in the UK at the time and listened to a lot of underground rap, and YouTube was outright blocking most of the videos for the whole genre. Since these songs weren't on streaming services either, my only choice was to use Surfshark to change my location to somewhere else in the world to access it. And it was super easy to do. On mobile, it's literally one click of a button, and now I'm in another country. When my plan ran out, I just had to suck it up that I didn't have Surfshark anymore. But I got a message from my mom that roughly translates to, "The shark ran out, can you buy me the shark?" To which I remember I had hooked her up with Surfshark, and she was using it for privacy protection and to access a larger library of Netflix shows, because Denmark genuinely had next to nothing. So if my mom can't live without Surfshark, that's a sign you gotta get it. And there's a good deal going on right now. To get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN, go to surfshark.com/ThaRixer, or use code ThaRixer at checkout. That's 4 extra months if you go to surfshark.com/ThaRixer, or use code ThaRixer at checkout. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring. Now, back to how to become GOATED at speedrunning.
Before we even begin to play the game, we must take care of something important: our bodies. Specifically, our hands and wrists. Stretches are not something you do when your hands start hurting, you do them to prevent injury for the future, so I'd recommend starting now. Stretching before runs or practice can help circulate blood in your fingers. Not stretching could heavily limit your abilities to perform. Just don't run with stiff or cold hands. Here's what I do. I bend my hand backwards and hold it for around 25 seconds to get that nice stretch along the forearm. This is gonna feel weird when you first do this, but trust me, it gets better with time. After 25 seconds, I turn my hand around and stretch the other way, again for 25 seconds. I do this with my other hand too now, and after that I roll them in circles, making sure I really get that stretch going. If your game involves the shoulder, you can use a stretching band. I used to do this before doing runs of Dragon Ball Z Budokai, but unless your game requires some kind of excessive mashing or stick rotation, this is probably not necessary. If you are struggling with wrist pain right now, I'd recommend checking out these 2 videos from Silent Wolf and Simply that cover a book called The Mind-Body Prescription. They both had horrible hand pains and were able to recover with the help of this book. So check it out. Wrist pain is no joke. The very apex of any leaderboard is going to feature players that have mastered their game's fundamentals. This is understanding your character's movements to its core, or being able to fully internalize certain lengths of cooldowns or animations. Getting good at any game requires a lot of playtime, and the more you play, the more you internalize its controls. To expand on what I'm saying, I've brought in Muty, a masterclass speedrunner in games like Quake, Half-Life, and Devil May Cry.
There are many facets in which you have to excel at to be a top-level speedrunner. Part of that whole package is getting the raw fundamentals down. There is probably a reason you picked the game you speedrun, and there's a good chance that reason is you enjoyed the game mechanics and the speed tech. Whether it's bunny hopping in Half-Life, controlling your mid-air momentum in SMB1, recognizing enemy attack patterns in Souls games, inventory management and menuing in Resident Evil, every game has a cornerstone mechanic, and it is quintessential you develop your mechanical skills to the point where you develop a sixth sense for the game. Being good at the fundamentals means you do things generally faster than most, you get to learn harder strats, you learn new strats faster, you can correct mistakes on the fly, you can get more creative and come up with your own new strats, and so on. I have noticed in many games over the years how having good mechanical skills would mean the difference between those contending for world records and those who are not quite there yet and sadly may never make it. As to how to get fundamentals down, my personal recommendation would be to play around with the aforementioned mechanics. If there are mods or tools that allow you to practice the basics, go for them. For example, in Half-Life we have multiplayer servers with a custom game mode called KZ, where we play on community-made maps that solely involve bunny hopping and movement with the goal of finishing the map as fast as possible. As movement is the undisputed boss of Half-Life speedrunning, every newcomer that comes along gets recommended to play on these custom servers, to the point it has reached meme status at this point. Even if you have been speedrunning a game for a long time, it is never a bad idea to go back to basics and do nothing but just mess around with mechanics.
Acquiring any game's practice tools is definitely something I can strongly recommend. For example, in Ratchet & Clank practice, I use Rackman, a practice tool that can connect to your PS3 via IP. Every time I derust this game, I use the tool to warp to Planet Umbris, give myself all the items and weapons I need, and begin using the map as a playground to strengthen my fundamentals. Obviously not every game has these kinds of advanced tools, but if they do, learn how to use them. For movement-heavy games, make sure you watch tutorials and movement guides that can teach you about the fundamentals. Even if you were able to figure out some basic concepts by yourself, you likely missed some small nuances that could have been learned through something like a video. Going back to Ratchet, for example, I have a movement guide on this channel that goes in-depth on a ton of advanced techniques. If you want to get good, you have to be willing to watch something like this, replicate what you see, and master these techniques yourself.
Got practice. Practice, 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 practice. Practice. And if you're not practicing, you should be practicing. So keep practicing. It's the only way you're gonna get better. It's the only way you're gonna be number one. Number one in anything. You need practice, practice, practice.
This is Jonathan Fatality Wendell. He's one of the very first pro gamers to travel the world and sustain a living from winning tournaments in games like Quake 3, Painkiller, Unreal Tournament 2003, and more. I play this clip to countless people because not only does it ooze that cool early 2000s PC gamer vibe, but I feel inspiration in how he delivers this short speech with such confidence.
And it still really rings true. The only way you're gonna get to number one is to practice. And frankly, it's gonna be half this video. And while practicing sounds simple, making sure you're efficient is rather nuanced. So let's get into some surface level info to ease you in. First, our runs practice. I hear this statement a lot in the speedrunning community, and I'm here to tell you, yes, it definitely is, just not very effective. Let me show you why. I've come up with a visualization called the dirty glass theory. So here I am with a dirty glass, and let's just say this is your current personal best in material form. It's messy, you got a lot to clean up, especially in this spot right here and here. Now, let's just say doing one big wipe across this glass is doing a run. The glass got a bit cleaner, but not by much. Let's say you do another run. And another run. It's getting cleaner, but those super dirty spots are still bad.
So instead of spamming runs over and over again in hopes that those sections will magically be cleaner, we need to really scrub those areas and focus on them to make it clean. So what's the best way to go about that? Well, I've brought in Spiral 1 world record holder Composer to talk a little bit about efficient practice.
I think the most important part to improving at speedrunning efficiently is by doing efficient practice, which I think can be categorized in a few different ways. I think that practice can be categorized as either active or passive practice. Passive practice is just repeating sequences of movements or tricks over and over and over again to build consistency, which is important. But you must also do active practice, which is practicing with the intent to analyze the way you go about things, the way you line up and do setups, the way you do certain movements, and analyzing to see if there's places for improvement, places to change the way you do things and see if other runners' setups or movements are more consistent for you or faster. I think that not a lot of people spend enough time doing this kind of practice, and this is the most important for improvement.
To give you the most straightforward advice on how to get better at active practice, you have to be willing to learn correct technique from the get-go. This is done by watching top runs on the leaderboards. When watching these runs, pay attention to everything they do that is different to you, even down to the smallest of things. To play at a world record level, you have to be able to visualize the world record lines, jump timings, and spacing in your mind. If you aren't able to do this, watch the run again and again, until you can replay it back in your head with your eyes closed. If you can, try to watch these runs on YouTube rather than Twitch if you have the option. Comma and period on your keyboard enable you to advance the video one frame at a time if you're looking to get ultra precise. Once you've analyzed a handful of runs, one thing you can do is type it down somewhere and create a priority list of what you want to incorporate. I did this one time when I came back to Mirror's Edge after not running it for a few years. The game was full of so many small new optimizations that it got a bit overwhelming trying to take it all in. So I wrote it down and started color coding all the things I wanted to practice. Because I was rusty, I usually prioritized things that I knew were easy to incorporate or save the most time for relatively low effort. It's kind of like going back to the gym after not having gone for a few months. You're not immediately going to go back to your max weight, but rather take it slow and work your way back up to where you were. Similarly in speedrunning, when your skill begins to return, that's when you can start focusing on the smaller time saves with bigger risks involved. If you tackle just a handful of these more difficult strategies every week, you'll be doing over half the stuff the world record is doing in no time. Another great analysis tool is creating comparison videos. I know not everybody knows how to use editing softwares, but if you know some basics, split screening two strats next to each other will give you clear visual confirmation on whether or not your strats are faster or slower compared to the world record. I'm a sucker for these, and sometimes games will even have built-in ways to time strats that skip this whole process. Like the Spyro 1 practice codes, for example. Cool? Cool. Now let's talk about nerves.
The second most important thing is simulating nerves in a practice environment. How many times have you found yourself practicing something and it feels pretty good, but then you hop into runs and suddenly it feels bad again? This is because in a run, things feel different. Things feel more nerve-wracking. And there are ways to simulate these nerves in a practice environment. And my favorite way is using streaks. Set out a goal for yourself with a trick. Say, I want to hit this trick 10 times in a row. Or maybe if it's a bit of a harder trick, say 5 times in a row. What you'll notice is when you are 1 away from finishing that streak, when you're at 9 out of 10 or 4 out of 5, you're going to feel nervous. You're going to want to hit that last attempt because you know if you mess up, you have to go right back to 0. And while this isn't a perfect analog to being nervous on a pace, it at least gets you a little bit closer to the mentality you'd be on when you're nervous. This can also be applied to movement categories. Let's say getting just under 2 minutes in a level is quite hard, but achievable. Set out the goal to get just under 2 minutes 5 times in a row on that level. What you'll find is this will teach you where it is important to push your movement and maybe where it's a little less important because it costs you consistency. Setting out these streak goals not only help you simulate nerves, but it also puts you in a mentality to find what is actually important to push and maybe what's a little bit too risky to push.
A runner's relationship with nerves can make or break a legend in the hobby. Many are scared to feel nervous, but we have to understand why it happens in the first place. Nerves are built up from a feeling of losing something you worked for. When you're new to speedrunning and you get your first really good pace into the endgame, you will experience your first true rush of adrenaline. Your hands are sweaty, your heart rate goes so fast it's hard to think straight, and while this all sounds awful, this is why we speedrun. That exhilarating feeling of sculpting your own masterpiece, you want to see it through to the end. but sometimes you will choke under the pressure. So how does one avoid this? I have 2 tips. One is to embrace the nerves. Enjoy the moment and feel alive. Take the adrenaline as a reward for you playing well and hype yourself up for the rest of the run. Instead of thinking, oh god, I hope this won't go wrong, it should be, whatever happens, happens. I'm glad to be experiencing this moment. That will leave you free of expectations and help you stay grounded. My second tip, experience numbs the nerves. When I was new, the pressure would crush me. I'd finally reach the endgame after trying for weeks and I'd choke instantly. But after thousands of dead runs and lots of practice, my nerves have turned to steel.
I actually have no nerves right now. Like, this is it. Let's go.
My heart rate on some of the best runs of my life is nothing like it used to be. And that's not luck, it's confidence. The more you put yourself in that high pressure situation, the less power it has over you. It's the same reason veteran esports players perform well under pressure. They've simply been there too many times. During this Jack 3 grind in 2022, I came very prepared. I was giving myself multiple chances at the world record a day, and the nerves disappeared with it. And suddenly, it stopped being a once-in-a-week miracle. Nerves happen to all of us, but doing streak goals is one of the best ways to help simulate it. And putting yourself in high-pressure situations will strengthen your mental game overall. Choking is natural. It happens because you care. But don't lose runs because you weren't prepared. Lose runs for the right reasons. All the way back in 2018, when speedrun content was fairly fresh on YouTube, Carl Jobs made a pair of practice tip videos with one of them focusing on the 50-50 rule, that I'm gonna reiterate on here. This concept is essential if you want to grasp efficiency quickly, and it can be applied to nearly every skill in the world. The idea is simple. You have a target, and you must hit it. But we all know hitting a target, especially when it's really small, is essentially impossible to hit with 100% accuracy. But to ensure that our chances of success is still as close to 100% as possible, we need to understand how we miss. The center of the target has the most room for error, so in most cases it will be the aiming point. But in video games, there's not always a clear visual indicator, and what you perceive to be the center will not always align with the actual center. Let's say I'm trying to turn this corner in Ridge Racer Type 4. Let's again say I'm able to get past it without hitting the walls 90 out of 100 times. But the 10 times I miss, I want to ideally be too inside 5 times and too wide 5 times, thus resulting in a perfect perceived center aiming point. Let's apply this to a frame-perfect trick. Say I'm able to hit this 75 out of 100 times, but with the 25 times I miss, 21 of them are a frame early and 4 are a frame late. This means I have a tendency to be early and my perceived center is slightly shifted to one side. If there are two things humans are amazing at, it's forming habits and pattern recognition. We recognize that there's an imbalance in our perceived center, but quickly become stubborn and lack the willpower to break the habit. The best way to break this habit is overcorrecting. If you are missing a trick too high, focus on hitting it too low. If you are overshooting, try to undershoot your next attempt on purpose. It sounds counterintuitive because, of course, we don't want to ever miss, but say I'm consistently too early and then I finally miss too late, it shows me how much margin the trick has. Being able to envision leniency becomes far more clear. There is an exception to this rule, however. There will be situations where the time loss on either side is not equal. To take an extreme example here, let's say that missing a trick too high loses you 10 seconds, but missing too low outright softlocks your game. Here, you should err on the side of caution and shift your center slightly more towards too high. Of course you want to hit the trick, but it's smart to think ahead about where you want to miss as well. The 50-50 rule is quite possibly the most broken strategy in the entire world for improvement. It can be applied to literally anything that you want to get good at, and I encourage you to try and use it wherever applicable. But for speedrunning, make these error-based corrections during practice, not during runs. Overcorrection is best applied when we're able to practice the same segment over and over again with little time wasted in between. This is why you should use save states or position codes if you have the option. Whether you're playing on an emulator, a modded version of the game, or something else, having tools that decrease your cooldown between attempts is a must for making adjustments and getting in reps fast. I got the world record in Mega Man X4 by simply loading in the same save states over and over again in all of the areas in the game I sucked at for about 30 minutes each, an hour or two every day. I must have loaded these 2 spiral staircase rooms 400 times combined. They both have a ton of enemies that come at you, with the background providing no visual indicator of when they'll appear. I just had to keep loading that save state until I learned the pattern of when and what spawned. I also practiced on Duck Station with a DualSense and swapped to a DualShock 1 when actually doing runs on console. I know some won't feel comfortable with using 2 different controllers like this, but I just adapted. If it still feels awkward and you care enough, you can get an adapter online for cheap. Your hours spent practicing matter a lot too. Many assume that in order to get good at speedrunning, you need to grind all day every day. But the name of the game is quality over quantity. Learning any motor skill, speedrun practice included, seems to be the most optimal when you spend roughly 2 to 4 hours per day. This is when you're the most focused, you're able to analyze mistakes well, and you can correct them accordingly. Practice for longer than that and you will begin to fatigue. It turns from deliberate, focused practice to low-quality repetitions. After practicing for the day, you're gonna want to get those nice 8 hours. Yes, good sleep is necessary for improving at speedrunning. This is something called memory consolidation. And to explain it to you like you're 5, think of practice as planting a seed and sleep helping it grow. When you practice the next day, everything feels more consistent and automatic. That's the real payoff from the day before. Now, of course, you're not going to be a god gamer in one day, so this is where you're going to have to be persistent if you really care about this shit. You need to be continually practicing. It doesn't have to be every day, in fact, I don't recommend that. There should be room for runs and breaks, but if you want to get better, I'd say for people who are more pressed for time, find a few days a week where you can put in 1 to 3 hours, and 2 to 4 if you're someone with more free time. For the love of God, be deliberate with how long you play. We gamers get carried away fast. You gotta stay disciplined. Practicing for 6 hours 2 days in a row is not going to yield the same result as playing 3 hours a day over 4 days. You can also improve during the practice session itself. You'll find that you can suck at something in the first hour of play, but by hour 3, something clicked. And that's what practice is for. It's for experimentation and trying things out. And at times, that won't always go well. Sometimes practice goes poorly, and I want to assure you that this is normal. But some will cherry pick one bad session and say practice doesn't work for me, when in reality, they probably just don't find it fun. Yeah, practice for many feels repetitive, slow, and unrewarding. And it's hard to improve at something you fundamentally don't enjoy. And honestly, I can relate to this. I had a rocky relationship with practicing, but over time, I grew to love it. How I learned to enjoy practice is appreciating the incremental improvements I make every time I play. It can feel like a slog when you're just starting for the day, but once you get in the zone and can really see yourself getting better and better with each rep, that's when it gets really good. Just knowing that your PB is going to get absolutely demolished the next time you do runs should be more than enough reason to make you want to practice. It's not only fun, it fuels you with long-term fulfillment, which is something I'll talk a bit more about at the end of the video. Even when you do enjoy practicing, targeting which areas to practice is going to be very subjective depending on the game and the person. A good place to start is to focus on areas you know you're not very good at. To become the most well-rounded player you can be, always target your weaknesses. In a similar vein, try to avoid practicing things you know you're already proficient at. Over-practicing the same thing can have diminishing returns. When you're at a point when you feel like you have everything down, your default should be to build consistency with the game's hardest sections. In Mario 64, top level 120-star runners will usually spend a while practicing carpetless. I'm sure you've heard about it. It's a trick that's late in the game, and missing it is run over. For tricks like these, you have to understand that you can only get so good at them. Hitting them every single time is not gonna happen. There will be a point where you plateau, but this shouldn't be an excuse to not practice it. You might not be able to get it to a literal 100% success rate, but get as close to it as you can. The last thing I'll mention for this section is individual levels, or ILs for short. How many times have you seen an IL runner swap to full game only to demolish the leaderboards? In my experience, this happens a lot. This is someone who takes each part of the game, grinds out amazing times in all of them, leaving them with little to no weaknesses across the entire game. Of course they're going to be good when they do any percent. So my advice, do ILs. It can be for a 30-second long stage or a 10-minute chapter. Since the run is now quite short, resetting is not a big loss, which means you're able to incorporate more experimental and risky strategies that you will find more consistency with as you keep doing that same IL. The pipeline of something being TAS only, to being IL only, to then being possible in full game is all too occurring. Get a head start, be daring, and push strategies into the run that nobody else is willing to do. When you finally get around to doing some attempts, there are quite a few different do's and don'ts in regards to seeing success and having fun. Some are preferences and depend on the game, but some are essentials you must incorporate to improve. First off, warm up. If your game has a level select of some kind, go to a few of the harder stages in the game and do a handful of repetitions on all of them. I recommend doing this for about 15 to 30 minutes, but whatever works for you. This is because you want to prepare yourself for what's about to come, reinforcing that, yes, I do remember this sequence of buttons I need to press, and yes, I can get this run. Despite your preparation, you will fail and be forced to reset when you're running. And when you do, keep track of what you're losing runs to and pay attention to any patterns. I've watched runners who make it to the halfway mark in their run, throw it to some easy trick, immediately start a new run, then throw it in the exact same spot again. Don't do this. It's a huge waste of time and can easily be prevented with this one change. When faced with this, use error correction. When you lose a run to a trick that you feel like you should have hit, stop your attempts and spend a few minutes doing that thing you failed to make the correction and prove to yourself that you can do it. If you don't and just start a new run, it's going to be yet another gamble. Because your idea of what it takes to hit it is misaligned with the center, and now we're back to the 50-50 rule. One thing is knowing the mistake, another is doing it a few times to ensure you have the timing down. It's stubborn and unrealistic to assume that you're so good at your game that you'll just magically make that adjustment next time. Just practice it quickly, make that correction, and go again. After all, you want to ensure that there are no shaky interruptions so you can enter the flow state.
Flow state is the act of completely losing yourself in whatever you're doing. It's the zone where play feels effortless and where your synapses are firing with such intense excitement that you truly feel alive. I believe most people know what this feels like, but what if I told you I think flow is achievable at will? Step 1. Detach yourself from results. This does not mean don't be nervous, because of course you'll be nervous on a great run if you really care. But you will never play perfectly, so by accepting that chokes can and will happen, you eliminate the anxiety of expectations. Step 2. Whatever you're scared of messing up, do it immediately. Flow requires you to play at the edge of your abilities. If you waste even a single moment doubting yourself, you won't be truly happy with your run anyway. To speedrun is to create living art, and art isn't allowed to be boring. Step 3. Have fun. The more fun you have, the more speedrunning will simply feel like breathing. World records don't matter, leaderboards don't matter. All that matters is enjoying this moment of expressive beauty. If you don't understand how to start, then simply pretend. Show up, try your best, be an imposter, do poorly, and try again tomorrow. If you improve at flow 1% every day, you'll be 37 times better this time next year.
Thank you, Zem, for the insight. I really agree with detaching yourself from expectations and having fun. If you're simply existing in the moment, you can just focus on your play and nothing else. I find that I play at my absolute best when I'm playing at full focus, or if I'm having friendly banter with my chat. Nothing in between. I'm either in the flow state or so distracted that I'm operating under full muscle memory. If you want more insight on this topic, I recommend checking out this video from Waifu. That gets into the nitty-gritty about flow state, choking, and how to avoid it a bit more. Flow state can be achieved under the right conditions, but of course, every game is different. I'd say it's easier to achieve for games where the fate of the run is completely up to you. But for the ones with RNG, it's a different matter. You could be locked in for 30 minutes straight, only for some terrible luck to occur that can take you out of the flow state. It can be very frustrating to experience such a sudden interruption. And how exactly do you deal with those emotions? I think it's best I leave that answer in the hands of someone who lives and breathes RNG on the NES.
Okay, so how do I deal with RNG? Obviously, I run one of the most RNG heavy speed games out there in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and when you run the game at a high level, a lot of times it feels like there's way more RNG than there is actual execution. And for me personally, I always just have to remind myself, as long as I'm doing everything correctly, I'm doing my job. And, you know, the game's going to do what it wants to do, but I need to focus on what I can control, and that is executing everything as perfectly as possible, and the game's going to do what it wants to do. And, you know, sometimes that can be pretty frustrating when you play over and over again and you're not getting the results because you're not getting the luck. But I don't know, I feel like for me, a lot of speedrunning is the mental game, and I tend to get more frustrated when I make mistakes versus the game giving me bad luck. It's almost like every run where I do everything correctly, but Tyson does the 8-second delay, or Dawn2 doesn't give me stars. It's like a miniature ego boost, because it's like, all right, this was totally out of my control. This was not my fault. I couldn't do anything about this, so whatever. So I kind of build up my confidence a little bit that way. There's no magic way to get better luck, obviously, but it just comes down to how badly you want the record and how badly you want the goal time. Like, I wanted sub 2 Tyson really badly, and I decided I just want to focus on playing as best I can, and I don't care how long it takes. I'm just going to keep doing this until I get the luck for sub 2. And it took, you know, like 9 months, but I decided I wanted that record badly enough. So it just comes down to a combination of getting your mental game strong and wanting it badly enough, and then fine-tuning your execution so that you're doing everything that's in your control.
There will be times where you get bad RNG, and there will be times where you mess up, and in situations like these, you're gonna contemplate resetting. Resetting is probably one of the most nuanced parts of this hobby. It's something all runners have to do, but some are more trigger happy than others. Resetting hundreds of times in the early game because you keep losing 2 seconds in the first level is a bad mental trap that will leave you underprepared for the rest of the game. The way you escape this trap is to treat the run equally from start to finish. Lots of runners will be disappointed with their early game if it was just a few seconds slower than what they usually do, but be totally fine losing 20 seconds on the last 3 levels. Your final time doesn't care about where you lost it. 5 seconds early, 5 seconds late, it will still be the same time regardless. So take more early games where you play a bit subpar. You never know how great your late game can be. I also recommend finishing out your dead runs if you don't have that much left to go. It can be healthy to reflect on the run and look at the splits like, damn, this run could have had some sauce without this and this mistake. It's an encouraging feeling, and if you're someone who doesn't enjoy finishing runs or find it boring, I highly suggest you check out this 12-minute video from Deo on the topic. He covers various subjects, including the approach of reactive versus proactive resetting, where sometimes you should play the rest of the split out instead of immediately hitting the button so you can truly assess whether or not you want to continue. Give it a watch. In this section, I'm going to give you some various tips that didn't necessarily fit into any of the other categories in this video. Let's quickly talk about mashing, as it's quite essential for a lot of games. There are loads of different methods to being optimal at button mashing, but the two that I recommend is the sliding method and the double thumb method. There's also the vibration method, but as someone who's used this technique a lot and turned 30 this year, avoid this technique if possible. It fucks up your tricep, and it's not even the fastest method anyway. There's not much I can say that isn't already covered extremely well in this video from Silverboxer. It explains how to do each mashing technique properly, and covers some interesting history too. Go check it out. Next, I want to talk about collaboration and respect. If you are aiming for the top, remember that others are chasing that goal too. In speedrunning, there's almost this unwritten rule that when someone beats your time, you congratulate them, because they didn't just beat you, they beat the game. The real goal is to go as low as possible, and that only happens because glitch hunters, routers, and runners build on each other's work. So respect your competition, no matter the community. Like, you're literally the only active Scooby-Doo unmasked runners actively playing? Don't get toxic. Aside from this sounding like a really funny YouTube video, it's always best to collaborate. When you feel stuck in your practice, talk to other runners. If you're struggling with consistency, work together. It all leads to a healthier environment, and you might even make some friends along the way. Lastly, I want to talk about running multiple games. If you're in the speedrunning scene, you've seen the type. Some insanely talented runner who keeps bouncing between games and categories. You know they could be amazing if they chose to commit to one thing. But but have the attention span of a fucking iPad baby. If you want to get better and you're doing this, it's hindering your potential way more than you realize. Spreading your effort across too many games makes it harder to actually improve. Sure, drop a game if it's not for you, but when something clicks, commit to it. Stick to it for months or even years. When time save becomes more scarce, keep pushing. Ironically, a lot of my own growth as a speedrunner has come through running multiple games, but the difference lies in the time frame. I usually stick to a game for about 3 to 8 months before moving on. This gives me time to build real skill that I can use to reach the top of the leaderboard. Improvement takes sustained effort. It's like learning an instrument. Jumping between 10 of them won't get you very far, but spending months on one will. There was a tweet I saw back in 2021 from former Celeste world record holder Marlin that read, "Speedrunning is a fun pastime activity, but over-prioritizing it or going as far as equating it to your success in a hobby with your success in life can be a very damaging mindset." At the time, I hated this tweet. I didn't want to admit to myself that speedrunning was all I really had in life, but after all these years, I understand now. Having other things you care about outside of speedrunning is very important for your life balance. When I was in school, I couldn't wait to speedrun Jak 3 when I got home. Granted, I really hated school, but in hindsight, the space it gave me away from the game made me cherish my time playing it more. When I finished school and had no job, I was playing all day, and suddenly I felt a lot more burnt out. Not only that, but my ego got way more fragile as I began to care a lot more about losing my world records. It was all I ever did, and it was all I was ever good at, so I tied my sense of self with my success in speedrunning. To sustain a healthy relationship with any hobby, you have to not overdo it. Since speedrunning is a hobby where you're sitting a lot, I suggest balancing it out with something more physical. Every week, I hit the gym twice and play disc golf 2 to 3 times, and that works well for me. I definitely speedrun less than I used to because of this, but honestly, the balance has not only made me appreciate my time when I do speedrun, I actually feel better at it than ever.
Dude, I really have been doing this for like 15 years, huh? And it still feels just as good. It's a PB.
Of course you can still get good at speedrunning if it's all you ever do, but the rest of your life will suffer as a consequence. If you've ever reached that stage, it might be best to take a break. Either stop running for a while, or perhaps pick up a different game for a fresh start.
So something I think that is highly underrated in speedrunning is the power of taking breaks. I am the master of taking breaks. I've utilized it by complete accident early in my speedrunning career, but then later on I realized it was actually like a good idea. And this can be as simple as just like switching categories in the same game that you're playing. I personally recommend, like, if you run just one specific game, find like a secondary game and just like take a break from your main game and just only focus on your secondary game for like maybe a few weeks or a few months. And you'll find that when you return to your original game again, after just like not even really thinking about it, not playing it at all, just put it totally on the back burner, somehow you come back to that game and you have this mental refresh where you just sort of see the game in a brand new light. You're just able to improve a lot quicker, and just like when you were hitting a wall before, it was just tough to get past like a barrier of improvement. Like for me personally, I used to run Pac-Man World 2, and I was stuck at like trying to get a sub 50-minute time for the longest time. Like I was just hitting my head against a wall, just trying to get this sub 50-minute time. And after like 500 attempts, I finally get it. Then I took a break from the game for a few months, just focused on Mario Sunshine for a bit. And then when I came back to Pac-Man World 2 after like 6 months of not playing it at all, within just like a couple practice sessions, my first day of attempts back, I got a 47. So it just goes to show, like, just not even thinking about a game for considerable time, it just like changes your perspective on it. This has worked for me personally in multiple different scenarios. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. So taking breaks, don't neglect it.
My intention with this video is to create one big grateful love letter to the speedrunning community. I want to give back to the place that supported me when I was young, and provide a resource for the next generation that I think is missing on this platform. In the grand scheme of things, speedrunning is still in its infancy, and lots of people still have the stigma that it's a waste of time. I think that largely comes from it being tied to video games, something that is typically seen as a way to kill time or de-stress. When you put a competitive element on top of something that's not typically considered serious, it's met with skepticism. And I think that stigma is why improvement in speedrunning is rarely treated as something meaningful. It's a major passion of mine, but when I talk about it, I'm met with this cold stare that says, "Why are you taking this so seriously? It's just a game." But so is tennis or fingerboarding. You can be as casual as you want about both of these, but pursuing greatness in either is viewed very differently. Is it because one has money behind it and the other doesn't? Who fucking cares if it makes you happy? You know, lots of sports that are cultural juggernauts today began as something people dismissed as weird or pointless. Only cause the people never gave up on what they loved did their sport grow. Why are we gatekeeping passion? The literal fruit of life that all of us live by. Matter of fact, fuck anyone who tells you to not pursue what you love. They don't understand passion like you do, so prove them wrong by keeping at it. Wake up every morning, live it, breathe it. It doesn't have to be speedrunning, it can be anything. There's stuff in this video you can apply to any skill. And once you do, you'll feel how good long-term fulfillment feels. The collective issue among the youth in society today is locking in. People are addicted to their phones, constantly overstimulated, living a life full of short-term satisfaction. Stop engaging in these destructive habits, find your path in life and send it. If you're deep in the mud, nobody's gonna pull you out of it but yourself. Quit using the word motivation. Oh, I just need the motivation. My guy, you need discipline. Is putting your faith in your feelings really gonna get you to your destination? Dude, there are times where I really don't want to go to the gym. There are times where I don't want to tackle this trick that I'm dreading, but I fucking do it anyway. Because I'm not thinking about what I don't want to do right now. I am thinking about who I'm building towards becoming. And so should you. Don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Find what you're passionate about and stick to it. Fine-tune your craft and be relentless with it, cause it'll leave you with some of the best moments in your life.
Yes! Let's fucking go!
Oh, yes! That's it!
There we fucking go! Let's fucking go, man! Fuck yes! Oh my god! Oh my god! Come on! Yes, man! Yes! Yes! I'm the best to ever fucking do it! Holy fuck, dude! Fuck! Yes! Fuck yes!
My heart is beating out of my chest right now.
I didn't know if I'd be able to.
Fuck yes! 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 Come on, baby! Come on, baby! Yes!
You see the passion here, dude? That's fucking passion. All the thousands of hours spent finally paying off. No matter how many attempts it takes, no matter how many times you choke, keep going. You will achieve what you set out to do if you just keep going. So what if you suck? Everybody fucking sucks when they first started anything. Don't let this stop you. You have one life. One life to do whatever you want. And if you chose speedrunning, you better not stop until you're proud. Because you'll never get the time you want by wasting it.